I don't watch wrestling anymore. I'm done. I'm done. Like I'm not. I'm obviously not a fan of professional wrestling because I saw the greatest spectacle of the year last Sunday, and it made me not want to like professional wrestling anymore.
The longest spectacle of the year.
Oh my gosh. Well, apparently there have been Japanese events that were 9 hours. So this is not the longest wrestling show in history.
No, I think they're trying to pull that off. They're pulling the wool over your eyes. I think Wrestle Kingdom comes close, but the difference is that show is entertaining and the matches are good all the way down the card pretty much. We weren't so lucky with this one.
I knew, and we knew going into this, it was going to be long. It was not every match was going to be a winner, but even some of the matches we got that we thought might be okay were not okay. And I understand there were some things that happened you couldn't really control. Rey Mysterio was hurt. They went ahead and left the match on the card and did it anyway, whatever. But still, what the hell was the show? Like, who was this for? Like, who? And the weird thing is, there are people that when it was done, they're tweeting like, "Oh, this was the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I thought this was the greatest show ever. That Shane versus Miz match was the greatest match I've ever seen."
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh man, are you? Someone said that.
Yes, there are. Yes.
Huh.
That's 100% legit. There are people. People born with brain damage who
they are entitled to their opinion. However, that opinion is very, 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 very wrong.
There was so much wrong with this show. There are so many from the way it was laid out to the way that they put together some of these matches to the way that they presented them. I mean, at least watching at home, we didn't have to deal with what the people live had to deal with like the giant spotlight shining in their eyes.
Yeah.
So they could watch a couple of the matches and some of that stuff.
Imagine how much money you poured into those seats only to have just a huge ass lights just in your face most of the night.
I always wonder about some of the people, like when you see the stage, you see the entryway, and then there are people that sit like up here, like behind it and over it.
Yeah.
Like, how much did they actually pay for those seats? And
I'm hoping not
worth it?
Yeah, I'm hoping not a lot. To me, I feel like in a place of that size and how they have it laid out, that if you're not sitting pretty close to the ring, what's the point?
Yeah, well,
you kind of wonder if anyone was sitting there and had really bad seats. They just pulled out their phone and just started watching it on the network. How dumb would that have been?
You probably couldn't get signal with all the people jamming.
Yeah, true.
But there are times I went and saw a professional basketball game. I saw the Bulls one time. I won tickets off the radio, so it's like, okay, we'll go to the game. And
when was this though? What era?
This was like 98.
All right. So yeah, okay.
It wasn't the Jordan heyday, but they were still, not terrible.
Well, you must have called him like the year after he retired then.
But yeah, so the tickets we had though, they were so high up, we were above the scoreboard that hangs down in the middle of the arena. And seriously, when we stepped out to you get to the top of your platform and then you walk down to where your seat is, and it's like I was getting vertigo.
Yeah, man.
Walking down because
that's why they call it nosebleeds.
Yeah, no, that's no joke. And I'm sitting there watching like I'm gonna die, but I'm sitting there thinking like, who would sit in these seats? These are so high up. But then once the game started and things were going, eyesight is good enough in person that sitting up there watching, I could follow the ball, I could follow the game, I could recognize who was who. I may not have been clear on all the numbers, but you can definitely tell like that guy's taller than that guy has lighter hair and darker hair. You can kind of pick people out, because you've only got 20 guys you got to pick from anyway. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But at a wrestling show where you're in a football stadium, that is a much bigger area, because at least like a basketball stadium is built a little more up because your court isn't as big. And if you watch, there are people with paid seats that are like right on the line. You know, they push them right up real close and they just kind of build up. In a football stadium, it's like you've got the field and then you've got all this dead area around it. And then you've got like a barricaded area and then you've got a row of seats and then you've got seats and seats. So granted, you know, you put a wrestling ring, you can at least fill seats in the middle. But by the time you get up to those tall seats, like you're so far out, like how do you even see anything? How do you make anything out? And especially if you're one of those people that has the pillar, you know, one of those 4 pillars around the ring that's like right in the middle of your field of view. You're watching the two guys like you're doing this the whole match.
Dude, I guess most of it is just saying that you went. Like I feel like if Mania was close enough and things worked out, well, I say that, but
not after this year.
Not after the last few, you know. Imagine if you were going to like WrestleMania 17 or 18, where you're getting like Rock and Austin, or you know, you're getting Rock and Hogan, and Stone Cold versus Scott Hall, which I mean, he was even pissed about that. But those cards were really stacked. But imagine just going now and just being like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna.
And the problem is so much of. Well, I tell you what. Let's start going through the card, and we'll pull out some of these problems as we go, because some of these problems are specific to some of these matches. So, all right. So anyway, you know, pre-show kickoff. I think it was on Instagram. It was on YouTube. It was on the network. It was on USA.
Yep.
It was Facebook video. I think maybe Twitter video even. I'm not sure. So, so this was lots of places. So they had dead spots because they had to do commercial breaks.
Yep.
They had all these, you know, the superstars, the legends coming in to talk, and David Otunga. So
how was he? I'm like, how is he still employed? I'm like,
is he actually still employed, or was he just there because he was available to make an appearance at the show?
I think he's under a deal because he's got that whole lawyer thing that he does. I think he goes and does that for a little bit, and then he comes back, pops in for pre-show stuff. I think they keep him around. It's just like, oh, he's good for PR and his.
Well, yeah, and I think because his wife is famous.
Yeah, are they even still together? I remember at one point they were.
I don't know.
There was some sort of thing where like she was like, he hit me or something. I can't remember. Anyway, pre-show. This was like This was 2 hours worth, right?
This was 2 hours. This was 2 hours, and it was 4 matches, I believe. Yeah, it was 4 matches in 2 hours.
Yeah, I just I skimmed through that bad boy.
So I watched all of this live when we were there. So the first match, we got the Buddy Murphy versus Tony Nese for the Cruiserweight Championship. And I actually, I was excited.
Should have been on the main card.
Should have been on the main card. This was a match that had a lot more history to it. They have been developing this on 205 Live. This should have been on the main show. This was a great match. This was definitely, if you missed this match, if you just went in to watch Mania because you knew it was going to be super long, so you only went in at the regular show time, 7 Central, 5 Eastern, whatever, or 5 Pacific. Anyway, doesn't matter.
4 Pacific.
Whatever it was, when you went in, if you just started with the main show and you skipped the pre-show kickoff, go back and watch that match. Don't watch anything else on the pre-show, but watch that match because that match was really good. That was one of those matches when it got done, I was like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong about WrestleMania. Like, this first match was excellent. This is a fantastic match. Maybe this will be all right.
Dirt, that's why they put it on first.
Yeah, they probably did. And the problem was that the arena was still half empty.
Yep.
People coming in.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
I wish they wouldn't do kickoff matches like that.
Well, because then, I mean, honestly, it adds to the effect that they want to make you think that like you shouldn't even care about this because like, look, the people aren't even in here because they're not in here yet to watch this.
It's like when they used to do dark matches before Raw and SmackDown tapings. You know, you'd have 2 or 3 matches, and maybe one of those would end up on like Heat or Velocity,
or Metal,
one of those. I was going to say worldwide, but that was the WCW. But yeah, they used to do matches like that, and it was like a half full arena, whatever, and it'd be kind of dark. They would turn off the lights so you couldn't really see how empty it was, and that's part of the reason why it was a dark match. And so it's like those were fine. This was a good match that topped off a good feud on one of the better WWE shows, and they put it very first thing that nobody saw.
Yep.
Which is a shame, because compared to there were like 16 matches on the show or whatever, and compared to this was in the top 3 of the matches on the night.
Yeah, ridiculous.
All right,
so many matches.
So then we got the Women's Battle Royal, which instead of they were originally going to call it the Moolah.
Yeah.
And they got rid of Fabulous Moolah because they found out she was pimping some of the girls on the road. So,
well, I think they were already very aware of that. It was just a thing.
It came out. Like people.
Well, yeah, the public knew of it, and they're like, "Hey, Snickers, KFC, you guys pull your stuff." And I guess they got cold feet about it. I'll pose this question to you then. Who would? Well,
actually, they did. They did name it after someone. It was the Manami Toyota Memorial Battle Royal.
What?
So, yeah, Manami Toyota, retired professional wrestler known for her work in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling.
That's strange. Was she ever under the WWF umbrella at all?
I don't think so. I think this is part of WWE's attempt to like be the all of professional wrestling. Like the way they've started when we saw the AJ Orton stuff, they were mentioning TNA Impact, like they acknowledge it exists.
They're getting scared.
They used to not
scared.
do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's because they're scared. I think it's because they're trying to say we are all of professional wrestling, so we'll mention these things because they all feed into our history and build us up.
No, they are sports entertainment. Let me correct
all of sports entertainment and build us up, right? So All Japan Pro Sports Entertainment. Let's see.
That's an odd choice. I was thinking, actually, let's just name it after like Wendy Richter or something.
Well, nobody really liked Wendy Richter either, but she was in the WWWA, but not F. But yeah, she did some appearances in the U.S. with Chikara about 9 or 10 years ago.
Okay.
She made some appearances at the King of Trios, but she apparently just retired. She's like 48 years old, just retired.
Damn.
Not too long ago. So they named it after her. So yeah, so it was the Manami Toyota Memorial Battle. They said memorial. She's not dead.
Yeah.
Honoring her anyway. So basically what they did was they had Carmella got thrown out of the ring, and so she just hid underneath the apron. They let the entire match play out until just Sarah Logan was left, and then Carmella comes up behind her, attacks her, throws her out. Carmella wins.
Yeah, see, I didn't watch this battle royal because I thought it would be ultimately just pointless. And
I mean,
turns out I was right.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. But to give them credit, they let Asuka do a lot in the match, even though she didn't win or whatever. She did a lot in the match. They also had Ember Moon returned, and they gave her a lot in the match as well. So you can tell she's going to get a pretty big push when they come forward. So
I mean, that top rope stunner is awesome.
And I gotta say, Chinese Pirate was there from NXT, so she did the elbow. I was happy. So I was like,
I expect her to be called up to the main roster pretty soon, honestly, because
that
elbow.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't want her to move up to the main roster because
you get scared about it, don't you?
Yeah, it'll just ruin her career.
You find like the good in NXT, and you're just like, I hope they don't get called up, honestly, because they're just Vince is gonna ruin them. But
here's the thing: it was a battle royal. It was a women's battle royal. A lot of it was not great. And that's not to take away. That's not to say it's because they were women. Just you get that a lot of times in battle royals because there's so many people in there, and people have to move to make space for other people to do their spots. And
same thing happens with the men because you got Jinder Mahal and like Mojo Rawley and people like that. So that's not it's just women. It's like no, there's plenty of terrible dudes in
And then
their battle royal as well.
Major League Wrestling had their show, and their show is called the Battle Riot, and it's basically a battle royal. But instead of using the word battle royal, they call it a battle riot. But they did the same thing. They had a big match, lots of guys. It was a gimmick match for a big, main event because they were doing a show, in New York. But it had some of the same problems where there were times where there were just too many guys in there, and it's like you could see that they would walk over and throw a punch on somebody, and the person is not reacting because the person doesn't realize they're getting punched.
Yeah, there's just too much going on.
And they kind of lean forward and they're like, "I need you to move," and then they move somebody out of the way. So, it was what it was, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
So, it's whatever. And the ending, it was kind of lame. They do that a lot in battle royals nowadays. So you're just kind of like, well, that's kind of overdone, but whatever. Who cares?
Yep.
We'll move on. So then we got the Revival versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins for the Raw tag titles. And
I knew this was going to happen too. I knew it.
Stripped the belts from the Revival. Kurt Hawkins, his losing streak of 269-0 is finally over. So he has the titles. The match, again, it wasn't anything special. It wasn't great. It very easily could have been a Raw TV match.
Yep.
It was just there to fill time. And it's fine for the kickoff show. It's just there to fill time. It's just a mediocre match, just to have a thing. They did a fun little, hey, Kurt Hawkins' streak is over and whatever, and you move on. So
I wonder if the Revival will ask for their release again. I would.
Maybe they'll be granted this time. Who knows?
Yeah.
Then we had the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and this, again, terrible. Lots of bad spots. The whole thing was the two guys from Saturday Night Live came out, and they did the exact same thing that happened with Carmella. They went under the bottom rope. They were outside the ring. They hid. They waited until the match was almost completely over. You had, I think it was the Hardys were trying to get Braun Strowman out. And so they ran in to try to lift Braun Strowman over. And of course, it failed. So Strowman dumped the Hardys and then attacked the two guys from Saturday Night Live. The one guy climbed outside, he was like, hey, I'll just eliminate myself. It's cool. I'm going to let myself out of here. And so Braun Strowman went over and grabbed him and gave him a punch just to make sure he'd get hit. The other guy brought in his therapist, to deal with Braun Strowman's anger management issues. And as soon as you saw this guy get in the ring, you're like, that's not a therapist. That's obviously a jacked up indie worker in a bad fitting suit. So he's taking a bump. And of course he did. And so then the other dude from Saturday Night Live got attacked and got thrown out, and then Braun Strowman won.
How can anyone look at that and be like, yes, I am thoroughly sports entertained?
People who are fans of those two guys on Saturday Night Live who wanted to watch a free show on USA where those guys would make an appearance in front of all those live people probably got done with that match and said, you guys were hilarious. That was great.
I mean, I just imagine, if I was a kid, if I went back and watched it, I would be like, this is terrible. Because even as a kid back then, when I was watching it, I would see certain things like when Papa Shango put the curse on Ultimate Warrior and he was thrown up. I was like, yeah, this is kind of bad. Yeah, and I was like 8 or 9 at the time.
I mean, I understand why they do it because they want to have crossover with mainstream, but at the same time, this is a horrible way to do it, especially when you have people that don't have any athletic ability. It's one thing, and I'll say this a million times. When Jeremy Piven was a guest host on Raw, he got involved in a match. Same with Stephen Armel from Arrow.
Yeah,
that's his name. Is that Armel?
Yeah.
Armel?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both athletic. They got involved. They were able to do flips and jumps. They were able to do stuff in the ring, and you were able to go, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't expect that from those guys. But when you have people who are just actors, who don't have an athletic ability, who I don't even know if they trained really to take a punch. When the one guy was on the apron and he got hit, it's like they just told him fall on your side and then roll off the edge, because he didn't really bump. He just kind of fell and crumbled.
Yeah.
So again, this is, if you want to do something with them in the show, you can do something with them in the show, and it's a wrestling show. So you can do a backstage thing where they get thrown into a pile of boxes. You can have them go through a table at catering. You can do something with them, but putting them in the match when they have no athletic ability is just terrible. And
honestly, what they should have done is what I said that I thought they were going to do last week. Have the thing where somehow they get Braun eliminated. He's chasing them through the arena the rest of the show, because at least then it sets you up to play more to their strengths and do like different things, even though it would be dumb.
That gives you the ability. You have all those people backstage that you want to make appearances. You want to have Ron Simmons say the damn. You want to have Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. You want to have them make an appearance. You want to have all these people do different things backstage. So that gives you the ability to work them in these little vignettes as the storyline flows through. And then when you do something crazy like the whole Miz and Shane thing, like you can have the two things like intersect in the middle of that match. When they're doing something dumb, like, Miz's dad is getting involved in whatever, and then outruns Braun Strowman and those two guys that like run through the middle of the ring while you're doing this stupid little comedy spot with Miz's dad, just to like throw everything off, because it's a point in the match that doesn't matter anyway. You can overlap with this other thing going on and do a bunch more of these things backstage, but instead of doing that, they did this. So, let's see. Delvis in the chat room says, I feel really bad for the superstars who have all that talent in the world but get looked over for this hokey crap. And that's, I agree. Yeah. There were some very, like Andrade being in that match.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Nothing for him.
They like I said before, they should have saved like the 4-way and the triple threats and all that stuff for the US title. Put Andrade in there with Joe and Mysterio, especially with Mysterio being hurt.
Yeah.
Then at least, you can kind of keep him out, but someone's still there and it's fresh interaction and whatnot. And it would have been an awesome match.
All right. So then we got the main show started. Alexa Bliss came out. She said, everybody gets a WrestleMania moment. I'm going to create a WrestleMania moment right here. Hulk Hogan came out. Everybody loved it. I turned to my friend. I was like, I wonder if he's going to say Pontiac Silverdome. And then he did. He made the Silverdome joke. But then instead of saying the MetLife Stadium,
he said MetLife
Arena.
Yeah.
Which is a different place.
Yeah. He still messed it up.
Well, but the question is, did he mess it up, or was that intentional on his part? Like,
I don't know. It's like, I kind of felt like people didn't really care though when he came out. Like the pop for it was sort of mild. I feel like I don't know. I feel like after that thing from a few years ago and they cast him out for a while.
I don't think so. I think for the most part, people were like, they were happy to see Hogan, but they knew he wasn't going to do anything. You know what I mean? It's like a few years ago, they did the thing where it was Stone Cold and Rock and Hogan, and they came out on the stage. They joked with each other and said some stuff, and then they left. And you were just like, okay, well, what was the point of that? I think that's what people kind of felt with this thing with Hogan. They were like, yay, it's Hogan, but who cares? It's not. We've got 5.5 hours of this thing to get through, know? So then apparently backstage, during, I guess, like the men's main event or the men's battle royal, the Andre the Giant battle royal thing was going on. Lesnar and Rollins were having this conversation with Vince saying, hey, we should go on first and do our match first thing. Because originally that match was supposed to be pre-main event. And they said, don't put us all the way at the end. Let us go out first and we'll get the crowd hyped up and we'll make everything exciting. And Vince said, sure, go for it. So that match, 20 minutes before, half hour before they're supposed to go out, it gets moved to being the first thing. Apparently they didn't tell Hogan and Alexa Bliss. So Hogan and Alexa Bliss are out there doing their little thing and they're posing and they're making fun and whatever.
And Paul Heyman just
out comes Paul Heyman, just walks right past them and heads into the ring. And you see Hogan.
Yeah, that was a funny visual of him just like strutting down in the ring, all pissed off to Hogan's theme playing.
And you could tell that I was like, wow, Hogan sold that really well. He actually looked surprised. And then you find out later he was surprised. He had no idea that was happening. So that was kind of funny. So anyway, they said, Brock Lesnar, he knows he's not appreciated. He wants to get the heck out of here. He wants to go to Las Vegas where he will be appreciated because, of course, he has a UFC fight that's going to be coming up in a month or whatever. And so he said he wanted to just do the match now, get it over with, and get on a plane and get the hell out of this place because it stinks and whatever. So they had Jerry Lawler come out to do ringside commentary. They had the two guys come out, and then before the match starts, Brock Lesnar just starts beating the crap out of Seth. And big move and big move and big move and big move.
Yeah, his back looked nasty.
Oh yeah, he went through what, like the German announce table.
Yeah,
like
I
he
guess
tossed them in, and it's like the whatever the announcer that was sitting there didn't move in time, so it's like he hit him right in the chest.
Yeah, but his back looked pretty bad.
Yeah, and he had that big swollen lump up here. It's like, oh god. So anyway, they eventually actually start the match. And then Seth Rollins like distracts the referee, or the referee took a bump.
Yeah, they sort of like bump into him a little bit,
and then so he used the opportunity to hit a low blow on Brock, and then he's able to hit like 3 curb stomps and then beats him for the title. So the actual match was only like 2.5 minutes. As far as
I was okay with this. I was honestly glad to just get it out of the way. Honestly, because you know how Brock Lesnar matches are, how they work by this point, and it's honestly a little tiresome.
So I mean, it's kind of like when he had the match with Goldberg that only went a couple minutes. The difference is, though, the short match with Goldberg was the main event that you were waiting all night to see, and then it was super short, and you're like, what the hell? This being an earlier match you knew was coming earlier in the night, they did it as a surprise first thing out of the gate. It was actually like, oh, okay. So it's like we had the great Buddy Murphy match. Then we had the rest of the garbage on the kickoff show. And then we had this match, which like it wasn't anything, super fantastic. It was not a great match, but it was interesting. So you're like, okay, well, at least that was fun, something exciting to have.
And the belt is finally off of Lesnar. Maybe we can move past that and give that belt some credibility because there's nothing left.
My mistake. Jerry Lawler then came out after the match, not before. So he came out for the AJ Styles Randy Orton match. This is one of those matches where the spotlights were shining out in the crowd and people couldn't actually see the match about 3/4 of the way through. And this was a match. I talked about this last week when we did the show, that this was a match that could go either way. It could be really good or it could be really slow. It depends on what Randy Orton we got. And we got the slow Randy Orton. I felt like this is a match that just never caught its groove.
I totally agree.
Plodded on and on and on. And, AJ at least tried to be energetic. You could tell like he was trying to kick it up a gear and to get Orton going, but Orton just didn't care. He just didn't go for it. So, yeah. I'm trying to. I'm just looking to see. Like I did a Facebook thread on the official Pop Culture Network group.
Yeah, I saw
that. And so I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. But
I was tempted to like click on it and say some stuff, but I wasn't watching the show live as it was happening. I had to like watch a part of it and then like do Fans of Power and then wait a little bit and then pick back up where I was. So I was like, I didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. All right, they did a Lacey Evans appearance because they can. They did the SmackDown tag titles, Usos, Rusev, and Nakamura, Ricochet, Aleister Black, Sheamus, and Cesaro. They came in, and actually, this was another one of the matches I thought was really good.
Yeah.
I didn't expect a whole lot out of this match because we've seen this match like 10,000 times. These combinations on SmackDown, you're just kind of tired of it, and you're like, whatever. But I thought the Bar actually did an excellent job in this match. Like this was the one time where the Bar came out and they were like, okay, now we're motivated. Like, even though they didn't win, for whatever reason, maybe it's because they were given free reign. Maybe because it wasn't on SmackDown. They weren't told you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. They were told just go out there and do whatever you want. And so they were able to just perform.
Yep. The best spot is when Sheamus keeps finding the guys and he's clubbing them. Meanwhile, Cesaro is still just spinning
them in the back.
Ricochet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that went on for a while. I'm like, could you imagine just being spun around that much? Because I noticed Ricochet like was like this, so I imagine that helps to have your eyes closed and covered. You can feel it, but you're not
Right.
you're not looking. But for Cesaro to do it that long and to still just like not fall over, maybe wobble a little bit, but to not fall over from is very impressive.
Yeah. So, again, it was better than I expected. So I felt I raised it a little bit higher in my ratings. Again, it might be like the fourth best match of the night, but it was definitely one of the good ones.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about the matches of the night, this tag match was one of the good ones. It was really good. It was a lot of fun. This one was entertaining. I was really happy with this one. We got the Hall of Fame thing. We had everybody showing off their rings. We had Bret Hart was out there.
Yeah.
Even though he had been attacked the night before. And oh my gosh, if you want to find out, if you want to know who are the people that have a hard time in 2019 separating fiction from reality, find all the people who Hall of Fame. That was a work. That was obviously a work. That's leading to something. That guy's an MMA fighter. They're bringing him on for the show. That's going to have something to do. Vince wanted him to come in and attack Bret because he hates Bret and he wanted Bret to take a hit. Like all these people with all these dumb conspiracy theories and all these different things they were trying. It was like, no.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like if it was a work and this is an MMA fighter coming in, why the hell is he wearing like a Rasta hat?
And why would they, if they were going to have a guy do a run in, why an MMA fighter and not a wrestler? Why at the Hall of Fame and not at the show? And why Bret Hart of all people?
Yeah, the guy who has survived cancer and a stroke. And he's
multiple strokes.
Yeah, 61 years old. I heard his hip was hurting quite a bit.
Yeah, so apparently after the show, after the Hall of Fame, he was taken to the hospital and they looked into his hip, but he was fine, whatever. He came back to appear at WrestleMania. So it wasn't bad.
That dude got everything he deserved from getting punched in the face.
Dash Wilder. So apparently, they all
nailed him.
They all get on top. They're fighting with the guy. They struggle with him. If you were watching this on the network, he hits Bret, and then the screen goes black.
Yeah, and then
it doesn't come back until they do the crowd shots and the people in the ring, whatever. But people leaked the footage. There were people that were filming it, and I think somebody actually had a tap on the satellite feed because I think the actual satellite feed of it got out at one point. But they you see arms coming down. You see, I think it was like Harry Smith was like pounding on him, and a couple guys were just kicking him in the face. Whatever.
Yeah, I think Ronda Rousey's husband even jumped in.
Yeah, he jumped in there too. So they pull him out. They're holding his arms back. They're taking him along, and you see Dash Wilder walks up and just goes bam and knocks him out. Just the guy just completely goes away, and that was it. It was good. So
you deserved it, buddy.
Yeah. So remember, folks, don't jump the barriers at wrestling shows. It's always a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, that happens sometimes at local shows. If you're at a local indie show and you try to jump in the ring or take a swing at a guy, it's going down. There's a lot of pent-up aggression in a lot of indie wrestlers, and you're going to find it. So anyway, yeah, so they did the thing. DX, of course, came out. They got a big announcement for Hall of Fame, played the music, and they were all running around on the stage and playing around with everybody.
Throwing the glow sticks and all that stupid stuff, yeah.
So maybe that means DX is officially gone. Like, it's over now. They can never...
Oh, Dirt, come on.
All right. We had Miz versus Shane McMahon in the Falls Count Anywhere.
This was your match of the night. I know it was.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so for the longest time, all they did was brawl in the ring and around the ring. And I'm sitting there watching this going, why the heck is this Falls Count Anywhere? They're not going anywhere. Yeah. Like, this is dumb. So eventually, though, Miz gets knocked out. Miz is sitting on the announce table, I guess. And Shane gets up on the top turnbuckle to do the dive. Miz's dad, stops, get in the way. So Shane gets down, calls him into the ring. The two of them get in the ring, and his dad does this like horrible, like or old man boxing pose, and Shane like corrects his hands, and
it's awful.
It was pretty bad. And so I'm watching, like they have this shot where it's like Miz's dad, and you see Shane standing across from him. I'm like, this is the worst Mortal Kombat 11 ad I have ever seen.
This was a SmackDown match. Is it Tom Phillips or Todd Phillips?
Oh, to do the announcing?
Was he like, what a moment? I wasn't paying attention. What a WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Like at this point, I was starting to get kind of upset with the show.
Mrs. Dad is just so goofy looking.
He looks there was like, who was the pitcher for like the Phillies in like the late 70s, early 80s, had the mustache and the mullet. And I like, of course, I don't watch baseball, but like he did, like he was in commercials and stuff. That's the only reason why I know this guy. But he looks like a major league pitcher from like the late 70s, early 80s. Like there's something about Mrs. Dad. He looks like a guy on like the Low and Brow beer commercial. He's like he's like the guy in the bar going, tastes great, when someone else is yelling, less filling. There's something about it. He hit a time period in like 1978, 1979, and he said, you know what? I'm never changing my look from here on out.
To be fair, we have a lot of that here. There are a lot of women that have not realized that it is no longer 1983. They still have the big hair, the hairspray. It's crunchy. Like if you went to punch it, you'd probably break your hand.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Acid wash jeans. So now those styles are kind of like sort of working their way back in. I guess they're back in, right? So they can keep that going another 20, 30 years.
I guess.
It's weird how people just get like settled into a look and just maintain it for like the next rest of their life.
Part of it, I understand. You get to a certain age, and you just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's whatever. I'm just wearing what I'm wearing. And you don't buy new clothes because you don't want to, put money into it, because it's like, who cares, whatever. But then at the same time, like, he's grooming that mustache. Like, he's trimming it to make it that nice little handlebar, and he's feathering out the sides to make it.
I think you should do that. Grow a handlebar. Let this feather out. It'd be great.
How about no? Denied. All right, moving on. Just no. So then what happened? Oh, so then they finally leave and they fight through like the international announcing area, and the guy from like the Uzbekistan.
All those tables just fell over. You can see Charles Robinson trying to like hold the tables up, and it all just fell over.
And so then they get to this one point where there's a giant sign that says like concessions and restrooms, and they're just brawling in front of the restroom side, and you can tell like the camera guy is like, move to concessions. Move to concessions, but they're just fighting in front of the restrooms until finally they move over. And then they had like a golf cart behind the stairway.
I did like that bump.
Shane gets thrown over and he hits the roof of the golf cart and then hits the ground because they don't want him to drop 10 feet, but he'll drop 8 feet because that's a lot safer.
Yeah. It looked pretty cool.
That was still kind of a bad bump. But then they did the WrestleMania 17 thing with Triple H and Undertaker, where they climbed up on the scaffolding of the camera. And of course, it's like there's a scaffolding and a camera, and then a lower scaffolding and a camera, and then an extra scaffolding just sitting there for no reason. It's like, I wonder why that extra piece of scaffolding is there. Oh, because they're going to climb up and brawl.
Oh, what's that? A big, huge mat?
And then, and then there's like this big crash pad with like a thin layer of cardboard to make it look flat. And like 3 strips of cardboard, and then like black, it's like spray painted black, and it's sitting on a black curtain. So you're like, oh, okay, well, I know where they're going. And it's funny because the cameraman in the scaffold right next to them, he kept trying to turn to film what was happening like right next to him, and the camera wouldn't go. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was like hidden, or there was a piece of wire that like wouldn't turn far enough, but it's like you see him, he keeps trying to film like to be a camera like 2 feet away from what's happening, and he just can't get it to go. So eventually the guy on the top scaffold gets the shot looking down so that they can do the tumble off the side of the scaffold. And apparently for the people who were there live, you know, unless you're sitting in those seats right there, you don't realize that that's a giant crash pad. You just kind of see this dark area where the light isn't shining. So he goes off the edge, and everybody in the arena was like, "Oh, wow, that was awesome." Whereas everybody watching on TV is just kind of like, "Oh, yep, all right, whatever."
Have a better idea. This is what they should have done. Falls count anywhere. Have them like go to the back, but somehow like they lose them, right? And they're like, oh well, all right, on to the next match. So they do that, and at some point later on in the show, because they had that giant ass screen in the entranceway, have them somehow all of a sudden say, oh my god, it points up, they're both up there, because Shane has fallen off of higher stuff,
right? But yeah, but so many people would be like, was it Hawk, who they had pretend to commit suicide by jumping off there? Yeah, like so many people would bring that up. You couldn't. There's no way you couldn't do that.
True, but it would have been cool. Shane falls off, and then Miz does a splash on top of him.
And it's worth noting, since you brought up the entryway, this was the most boring, most generic entryway they've ever.
It really was.
It was just a big rectangle TV screen with
and that's it.
Cut out.
And that's
nothing else. They did this augmented reality thing like they did at the Royal Rumble and they did WrestleMania last year, where certain people would come out and you'd see stuff floating in the air. And every so often before a match, they'd go to the ring and the big rectangle sitting on top, they would show like this giant version of the people in the match superimposed up there. But it was just like, you looked at it, like I kept waiting for it to rise up so that stuff would come out underneath or something. To be fair, they did open the panels for the Triple H Batista for them to drive out in the lamest, most horrible entry of all time. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But it was just a big rectangle. Nothing else. Nothing. It's just a big rectangle.
That's where we are now.
Yeah. And so I was like really disappointed. Like there was nothing. You watch that and they're like, not even like a couple of years ago, they had a big circle and then the two rectangles coming out of the side. And I was like, man, that is so plain. That looks terrible. It was like a big play button because the network, you know, you're like, man, that sucks. That looks terrible. But this is probably like the lowest point. There's no way anything will be as bad as that. And then this year they did it. They were just like, screw it. We're just doing a rectangle. We don't care. Doesn't matter. And there, someone in back is going, well, you know, those are high capacity LED screens with 720,000 DPI, so we can get 16K Ultra HD on the screen. It's like, who cares? You don't do anything with it anyway, because all you do is like flash a name and some smoke, or a name and a lightning bolt, or like they look like they're doing Impact entrances from 2012. It's like, what is going on with WWE entrances? There's no video. There's no, you know, loops of people getting punched in the face. They don't do any of the fun stuff they used to do. It's just like, here's the name, and it's the name plate, exactly like what you'd buy on the t-shirt. And then with maybe some wavy background behind it or some.
Yeah, it's generic and it kind of just lazy. I miss the Titantrons, man.
Yeah. So Delvis called this Rectangle Mania. So there you go. It was not. It was like, that was another thing that was just really disappointing about that.
I call it the show that cured Dirt's insomnia. That's just me.
Yeah. So this was not a good match, and even the big bump they did, just like the bump that Shane took off the golf cart roof, looked
better
more horrific
than
the one.
Yeah.
But the gimmick was Miz picked up Shane and suplexed him, but because of the way they fell, Shane landed on top of Miz. 1, 2, 3, Shane wins.
Yay.
Which I feel is the same ending they've done before in one of these matches, where somebody went off, I think, the edge of the stage on Raw, but landed on top of.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
They switched. So it was another where it's like they over gimmick the ending and I didn't care.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had Bayley versus Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax and Tamina versus Natalya and Beth Phoenix versus Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, the Iconics, for the women's tag team titles. And I told you the belts were going on the Iconics at some point. You could just tell the way that they were telling the story that eventually
you could also see one good tell is Sasha Banks in her entrance. If she doesn't look happy, then you know that she's losing.
Well, and apparently she almost quit
Yeah.
WWE
I
walked
just
out
read that
WrestleMania
before we
weekend and
started.
didn't do the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, she was under the impression that she and Bayley would have the belts for like a year in order to build up the belts and make them important, because no one else can do that except her and Bayley. And to be fair, I know originally, like 2 months ago, going into WrestleMania, the idea was the night was going to end, and this is part of the reason why they took the belt off Asuka and put it on Charlotte. Was the original idea was at the end of the night, you were going to have Bayley and Sasha with the tag team titles. You'd have Charlotte with the SmackDown title and Becky Lynch with the Raw title. And it was the 4 horsewomen of NXT who had graduated to Raw, had pushed women's wrestling to the highest level, and they were ending WrestleMania. They all had titles. So it was the idea that they had this chapter of moving from the divas to the women's division. That chapter was now over, and now the women's division was just as epic and regular and normal as the men's division. That was the original idea with all these belts going into Mania. And then we know things change. Things change as you go. And in fact, things change right up until the first match of WrestleMania. Things are being changed behind the scenes. So that went out the window. Charlotte keeping the belt went out the window. Like, all of that was flushed down the toilet. But yes, Sasha was just not happy. And that I will say, I will give credit. Nia Jax and Tamina, they came in, they did some moves, they left. They were out for 10 minutes, came back in, did some moves, left. Like, they knew they were not the focus, and they were not supposed to spend all their time in there. And Bret Hart did come down with Natalya and Beth Phoenix, and he watched from ringside during the match. But of course, they didn't win.
They never win. But you know what?
It was again. It was okay, but it wasn't good. It wasn't great. It was, if this had been a main event on SmackDown, you probably would have been like, oh yeah, okay, that was pretty good. But where we are in the night, watching all these other matches, some of the stuff we've already seen, and then the way we're kind of getting pissed off with some of the other stuff happening on the show, it's just like, this was not a great match. This was not a showcase of the women's division.
Showcase of the Immortals.
Yeah, no. This was the showcase of the people who have careers.
Yeah. But I'm happy for the Iconics having the belts. I think that could turn into some decently entertaining stuff, because they do work very well as a team. Now, separately, they're not good, but as a team, they make it work.
I don't like. I could just tell that they were getting the belts. I don't know that they necessarily deserve them. I'm not a huge fan of the Iconics in general, but like I said, you could just tell by the way they were doing interviews and the way they were doing the vignettes that I could just tell that they were going to be getting the belts at some point. But
I do one thing I do enjoy, though, is when they did win, to actually see that genuine emotion. I always appreciate that. Like, anytime you see those men or women that have taken years and years to, one, get to the company, but to reach a point, especially with those two, because they sort of got into the business together and they've been friends for a really long time.
They work well together as a team, and they have that ability to complete each other's sentences. And
so I like that genuine emotion that you see.
Yeah. All right. So then we got the match of the night. This was the match of the night. Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE title. This was the should have been main event. They both put everything they had into this match. WWE did not over gimmick it. They did not have to have a whole lot of interruptions and everybody getting involved. They let them have a match. The match was great. It was exciting. It was high energy. It was everything you wanted in a WWE match, especially in the main event, where it should have been. Kofi Kingston, of course, won the title. Finally, the dream realized. New Day, they said they had a surprise for him ringside. They took they had the Daniel Bryan belt, and I told you this was going to happen. They threw it away. They pulled off the curtain, and there was the old belt, the normal belt back. And so they gave him the belt. And then I saw some kids running in the ring, and I was like, oh no, those kids are going to pull a Bret Hart on Kofi. But no, it was his kids. It was okay.
Dash Wilder comes out and just starts punching them.
So then they pull out the T-shirts that, there's a new champ. Everybody, they put them on the kids, they put them on themselves, they were wearing them, and apparently WWE put these on the online shop about an hour before the match. So anybody who went to WWE.com and did a search for New Day merchandise found the shirt saying there's a new champ and had the whole thing spoiled.
I mean, I get the point of it. You want it like up there ready to go at the same time.
I heard people complaining about it being spoiled, but at the same time, it's like
you knew
spoiled. Yeah, it's like it, because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have watched Raw. You know what I mean?
I think there would have been like fires that would have started in the
there would have people setting trash cans in the bathroom on fire.
Yeah, but I go back to the genuine emotion part to see when he won and to see Xavier and Big E, like they're hugging him and like Xavier's actually like crying. There's just something about that. That's like the good stuff, the real stuff, not the overproduced. Oh wow, what a moment!
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that the other two guys who are with him, they didn't tease now he's won the belt. Why didn't I win the belt? Have Xavier be mad at him? You know what I mean? Because always when they do one of these things, they have to break up the team and have the other guys become jealous.
I mean, there's still time, but I hope they don't do it. I've always thought of, with the way that the New Day has been, if they were to ever do something differently, like break them up or whatever, have it just be like not someone's turning heel, just be all right, yeah, we're going our separate ways, we're doing our own thing, and leave it at that. And then
they do have our shakeup coming up, so it is possible
that, I could see like Big E and Xavier
being a tag team on SmackDown, and they can move Kofi over to Raw, maybe. You never know.
If they moved Kofi to Raw, they'd have to move Seth Rollins to SmackDown.
Right, they could do that. SmackDown is going to have some big changes in the next couple months because it is moving to Fox.
True.
And it's not moving to Fox Sports, it's moving to Fox.
Yeah.
So it is going to be on the network. So of the 4 major national networks, NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, it is going to be on Fox Friday nights. So
that leaves open a spot on Tuesdays.
It does, except I don't think AEW originally wanted that Tuesday night spot, and they had copyrighted a name, but with them going to TBS or TNT, which seems to be all but confirmed at this point, they can't do Tuesday nights because of the NBA contract games. So Wednesday or Thursday is where you're going to.
I think Thursday would be good.
I mean, SmackDown was a Thursday show for a long time.
So was Thunder.
Which, by the way, they put a bunch of new Thunders on the network a couple weeks ago.
I need to check some of those out.
They're still not quite the ones I'm looking for, but it's still good. You got a bunch.
Which ones are you?
98, 99s. I want like the final 9 months of Thunder. Like I want the in the toilet Thunders from the very end of the.
There were a lot of good, like really awesome cruiserweight matches on those.
There were a lot of fun lower card matches that didn't get any sort of, when Tank Abbott and
3 count
Rick Steiner. Well, no, I was gonna say when Tank Abbott and Rick Steiner were doing their feud where they were dropping like the fenced-in circle in the ring, and they were fighting in that little fenced-in cage. When they were doing that terrible stuff on Thunder, you had some good stuff going on in the undercard. But Tank Abbott and 3 count, I was entertained.
I was too. I hate to admit it, but I was.
All right. They did the backstage thing where they did the 2 guys from Saturday Night Live with Alexa Bliss. They had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall come back up. They were dressed as the doctors. They were putting on the rubber gloves because they were going to do prostate exams. Made a joke. Ha ha. Yeah. Was this the part where Ron Simmons came in, or was that later?
Honestly, I don't remember either.
Booker T came out to do commentary for the next match, Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio for the U.S. title. Now, Rey, his ankle was injured. He legitimately injured it several weeks before. They had been having those talks about whether or not he would be showing up on SmackDown to do stuff, whatever. But apparently that was not the reason why this match was cut. Samoa Joe and Ray were looking at the card. They were looking at how much time had already passed, how many matches they still had to go. They apparently went to Vince and said, look, let us do a quick match. Let's do something. It'll be shocking. It'll be surprising. It'll be, fast. It'll set up Joe to look great. This is partly Mysterio's idea. He thought it was great to get Joe over. And they knew it was a good way to just kind of quickly speed things along in the show. And Vince said, okay, go for it. So again, show is being changed while it was happening because of the other stuff going on. So they just had a quick match. It was like a minute long. Ray got in a move, went for the 619, but Joe turned it into the clutch and choked him out. And that was it. It was over. And it was one of those things where you're watching it and you're like, what? Like I was kind of expecting something more and it didn't. But again, overall theme of the night of everything going too long, it was nice to see that they didn't kill a lot of time to make it go another half hour, even though it's a match I would still like to see. Delvis said, I want to see a match like Nathan was talking about going on throughout the show all over the arena between James Ellsworth and Gillberg.
Well, you'd have a problem with that because Ellsworth ran into some issues a few months ago with, I guess, sending naked pictures of himself to underage girls or something. I don't expect Ellsworth to be back.
Yeah, well, and I think part of the issue was like he didn't know. It was just one of those things like girls were flirting with him, so he flirted back, and then you find out later like, maybe you should have asked for some ID, but kind of like a Jerry Lawler situation a couple times.
Right.
But anyway, he said it'd be great though if it had no real coverage. You just see them fighting in the background. So it's like there'd be, the match would be done.
There'd be like a backstage interview. This match is still going on in behind.
See them like on the top layer of the stadium, like fighting behind the screen area.
That's what I'm saying. Like they could have either done that with Braun and the Saturday Night Live guys, or have Miz and Shane just that match keep going throughout the night. It would have been something different at least.
All right, so then we had Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. And again, this was low.
It was there. It was like a Raw main event.
It was, well, and I would say it was even worse than a Raw main event because one of those, it went way too long. Like it went, I want to say it went like 25 minutes or something like that, and it should have gone like 10 or 12.
It's Roman's first singles match back since beating. You gotta show that he is indeed the big dog. Apparently,
the Upper Deck was doing a wave during the match, and the people were more into the wave in the Upper Deck than they were the actual match. And then when Reigns won, of course, he did the thing where he put his head on the turnbuckle and cried because it was so emotional.
Well, I mean, I get it for him. Imagine like going through that, leukemia coming back.
But nobody cared. Nobody cared.
Dude, I know that we're already at the point where people are already starting to boom again.
And then we had Elias come out.
Yeah.
And so we knew going into it, something was going to happen with Elias. Someone big was going to come in.
This was probably one of my favorite parts of the night. I am not going to lie.
So, okay, here's the thing. He comes out and he starts doing his little spiel. They had like video of him playing drums and playing piano, and it was synced together with him playing guitar. And you're like, wow, he is musically talented. That's cool. It's kind of weird to see this. Then they had some video interrupted him, and it starts talking about New York, and it's talking about the Mets or the Yankees or whatever, and Babe Ruth.
Yes.
Babe Ruth calling his shots. And you're like, okay, I don't understand. And then John Cena's Thugonomics song hits, and he comes out, and apparently, if you've seen him in any of the commercials or promotional stuff he's been doing, he has this really dumb haircut where he looks like Ernest P. Worrell, where he's got like longer hair and it's like combed over. It looks so terrible. So apparently,
I think he looks dignified. He is a Hollywood movie star now.
No, it's for a role. And so in order to cover it up, because he can't shave his head or whatever for whatever reason, he had the baseball cap on backwards. So it leads to the Doctor of Thugonomics
Yes.
gimmick because you can do that. So
the crowd ate it up too.
Yeah, the
Got
crowd
a Cena chant.
Crowd was hot for it. He and because he was the old Cena, he made fun of his movies. He made fun of WWE. He of course made fun of Elias.
Yep.
He said some non-PG things.
It was great.
And then of course he attacked Elias and left.
So. It was great. I loved it.
Then
bring him back as Thugonomics. Let him do that.
Which is fine, but he's still in the middle of whatever doing this movie stuff.
Oh yeah. That's what I would have Cena do from here on out. Just come do a rap, interrupt somebody, give him the FU.
WWE believes that Cena, like The Rock, is less interested in coming back and doing stuff as Cena is. Cena wants to come back and wrestle off and on in between the movies. Rock is willing to come back and make an appearance here and there between movies. So WWE wants to push Cena more. And because Cena's doing movies, because he is a mainstream star, people actually know him who are not wrestling fans. They think they can position Cena in such a place where he will be a bigger legend than Hulk Hogan. So they are priming him to be the face of professional wrestling and in Hollywood, TV shows, reality shows, commercials, whatever, until Cena is 85. Like, he is going to be the guy who like, for the old school guys, we all think Flair. Then there's the rock and wrestling guys who are thinking, we all think Hogan. All the guys from Attitude want to think Stone Cold. Some of the newer guys, of course, they still look back at The Rock. But they think that John Cena is going to be the guy who replaces the legend of everybody else and is the pro wrestling sports entertainment guy for all of entertainment.
That's fair. When
it makes sense to a certain degree.
Yeah, when you think about it, he has been just that face of whatever era you want to call this, the crap era.
But if he comes back, though, if he comes back to wrestle again, he needs some sort of new shtick. It's got to be beyond the never give up. It's got to go beyond Thugonomics. He's got to find something new, and I don't know what that is, but they got to find it. Delvis says that they need to do a Suburban Commando remake with Cena or Mr. Nanny. I think no. I think those movies never need to be mentioned or seen or touched ever again. Even though Tyler, of course, because it's Hogan and their movies, I think Tyler has some sort of weird fetish.
He likes No Holds Barred and Suburban Commando.
Okay, but not Mr. Nanny.
No, Mr. Nanny's trash. Suburban Commando, it's not great, but it's fun for what it is. Plus, you got Undertaker in there, so why not?
All right. Next, we got another one of the worst matches of the night. We had Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. This, I will say, Kurt Angle moved a little more fluidly in this match than he had been on Raw. So I don't know if they
they probably just injected him with something.
I don't know if they went to one of those whatever the thing is they make from marijuana. What is the ODC?
Dude, I don't
fluid,
know.
Whatever. I forget what it is, but it's like they take out the THC, but they make like this oil, this ointment out of it, and you can use it to.
Yeah, I can see
whatever.
This will last approximately 23 minutes. You need to go out there now and do your thing. Yeah, what a sad way to end a career.
CBD oil. Delvis knows, of course, you know Delvis. But yeah, CBD oil. So I bet they gave him a bunch of that. So he went out there. They did the quick match with him and Baron Corbin, of course. To give Kurt Angle credit, he lost the match because he is a guy, even though he was a real wrestler who got into professional wrestling later, he quickly loved every aspect of professional wrestling. He quickly became a pro wrestling guy. He respected the business. He respected the locker room. He's one of those guys that even though he came from an outside place and got into it later, like Goldberg, unlike Goldberg, Kurt Angle is one of those guys who he was a good company man. He was a good team player. Everybody respects him backstage, so he knew on his way out he should not win. And apparently there had been discussions like, Kurt, no, like everybody loves you, just beat Baron Corbin. And Kurt said, no, like I'm leaving the company, I'm retiring. I can beat him up on Raw the next night, but I don't need to beat him at WrestleMania. He should go over on me because he's the young guy staying with the company.
Yeah.
And so all credit to Kurt Angle. Fantastic for allowing that. But it's Corbin Burns and nobody cares.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. It was what it was.
It was what it was. So then he wanted everybody to chant "You suck" at him, and they did, and he cried, and it was one of those things. The 3 minutes after the match was better than the actual match.
Yeah.
Then we had the Demon versus Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, this match put me to sleep.
They did cut some time. Apparently, this was supposed to go a lot longer than it actually did to allow. There was supposed to be some sort of thing about how Finn Balor couldn't pull off certain moves, but now the Demon could, and it was supposed to freak out Bobby Lashley, and it was supposed to scare Leo Rush. But instead, they were like, you guys got 12 minutes instead of 25 or whatever. So they cut a whole bunch of the stuff out. They just went for the big moves and some of the quick stuff and got it over, and that was it.
Finn Balor, your new champion. Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I don't care that he beat Bobby Lashley. It's just it was not a good match. It was not a good match. They announced 82,265, which was totally a lie. That was
It's always a lie.
I mean, I think the actual number is something like 68, and even the 68,000 includes everybody with credentials. So everybody from the company who was there in the stadium also counted towards that 68,000. So,
well, I mean, they are in attendance.
they are there. The guy collecting money at parking. He's a person.
He's there
at the show. He's
there. You're part of it, buddy.
So there you go. But then Alexa Bliss said it's time for a break, and nothing happened. It's time for a break. Nothing happened. It's time for a break. She turns around. It's time for a break. Ha 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 ha. It's funny. Out comes R-Truth and Carmella, which I love R-Truth. That's, this is not the time when you're this far into the show and people just want it to be over to do a time wasting gimmick. So then they said it's time for a break. So they came out. It's time to do their 7-second dance break, 7-second dance break, which of course went for like 35 seconds before they cut to the backstage. Wait, we skipped the match. We skipped the Triple H Batista thing.
Oh,
we totally did. Yeah, that was after the John Cena segment. We totally skipped it.
Shame. So
this was the one time during the night they did something big with the entryway. They had this Mad Max.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that was like 4 years ago.
Mad Max Fury Road just came out, apparently. And it's like the same gimmick he had last year, right? Where he was like the green Conan on the 4-wheeler with Stephanie on the back. Wasn't that also a Mad Max inspired?
I don't know.
So they were playing this video of the people in the desert, and then it cuts to the scene where they're just driving, and it's just like placeholder footage of these CGI cars just driving, kicking up sand. And then part of the screen opened, and out comes this Grandpa Munster's off-road dune buggy, and it was being driven by the ECW Zombie. And there's Triple H on the back of this thing, and it's the car was like too long for the turn it takes to come around to go down the entryway. So the guy is like going at like half a mile an hour, trying to figure out and readjust as he's turning.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to drop like the back wheel off, like as he's making this turn. So Grandpa Munster's dune buggy, driven by the ECW Zombie, comes down, and Triple H is sitting there on the back doing the thing. And oh my gosh, I saw people on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. This is the greatest entrance of all time. Triple H is so awesome.
Well, I'm glad that they got brainwashed into thinking so. After all this time, people are like, you know what? Yeah, that he's badass.
Someone's getting their $2 in entertainment out of this. But it's like if they had done this in 2004, maybe, or 2014, whatever, when the movie came out, maybe. But
to me, most of these entrances have always been sort of just hokey.
Yeah. And the problem is he thinks it builds up the legend of him being this.
Well, that's what you got to. That's what he has to do, because when you think about it, it's revisionist history all over again. Like in the Attitude Era, he was champion.
Yeah, but he was the champion that always won by cheating or having DX.
Well, I mean, you always
he was never the baddest guy in the bunch.
You always had Rock and Austin, whose star power was,
or even Mankind.
Yes, just constantly
or Undertaker.
Yes. So, through
down the list.
And it started in the mid 2000s when he did Evolution, had the Reign of Terror and everything. It's like, look how important Triple H is, because all these other guys had started to go, and that's when all the fans started tuning out as well. How coincidental is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, these entrances are just
terrible.
Yeah,
terrible. So anyway, they did this match, and it was no holds barred. Triple H's career at stake. And so the whole point was, like, they had these weapons, they had a toolbox that they pulled out that had tools in it, and Batista had been coming out with this nose ring. So they had this thing where Triple H has these pliers, and he comes down, and they get this camera to go in the ring and to go right over Triple H's shoulder. So you see it come down, and you see it get real close, and you see, like, the way Batista's moving his head and the way Triple H is moving his head, trying to get these like pliers onto the nose ring, and then Triple H just kind of covers it up with his hand, so you can't really see what's going on. And then boom, they just kind of pop back, and he's like, I got it, and he covers it up with his hand, and he pulls out this nose ring that he's showing to everybody, and the nose ring looks like this. Like, it's not like a nose ring like someone actually wears. It's like this round C, and you can see Batista rolling over, like pulling it out of his nose and putting it in his hand and sliding it to the ref. I mean, it was just the dumbest looking angle. Like, if you're gonna do that, like, it needs to be gimmicked 100 times better than what they did. I don't know if that was like a last minute addition where they were just like, oh no, I'll throw something in the toolbox. Well, like right before they take it out, let's do it. Let's throw this thing in there. But if this was something that was like a pre-planned, like, this is going to be one of our big spots in the match, they totally botched the entire thing. Yep. It looked terrible. It was so hokey looking. And again, this is a match that was slow, and it went on forever. And if it had ended 10 minutes earlier, you might have hated it half as much.
I think by this point I was feeling kind of drunk. So I was just sort of like staring at the TV, just zoning out.
So this was before the Kurt Angle Baron Corbin. So we had, just to recap, we had the Daniel Bryan Kofi, and you were like, wow, that's great. Then we had Samoa Joe Ray, and you're like, what the heck? And then we had the Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and you were like, that was a dud. We had Triple H Batista, you were like, that was a dud. We had Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin, that was a dud. We had Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor, that was a dud. Then we get to the main event. I will be 100% honest with you. The two other people I was sitting in the room with, they both fell asleep at different points during this match.
Yep.
I mean, it was 11 o'clock at night already. We had been sitting there for hours watching this thing. They were done. I didn't care. Like this match, as far as I'm concerned, if this had been a 3-minute match of high impact spots with Becky going over, 4 stars, great. But instead, they had a full half-hour match. They did a thing where Charlotte had to recreate her dad's entry to, was it Starrcade 90 or Starrcade 84, 94? I don't remember, but came in on the helicopter and landed, rolled out the red carpet. She came out. They had Joan Jett set up during this point so that she could play Ronda's song. But at this point, it's like nobody cared.
Yep.
All these entrances were just like, people were like, I don't care, just get done with it. Yep. Like, people are looking to go home. People are looking at Joan Jett, and they're like, just be done, be gone. Glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Leave. I just want this over with. So at least, like, Becky came out, nothing. She just like walked out. I think they had some smoke or whatever, some steam coming out of some pipes, and because she used to do the steampunk gimmick, where she had the steampunk cloak with all the weird stuff on it, and she had the top hat with the goggles and stuff. She doesn't wear any of that anymore, but they still gave her all the steam when she came out. Would have been nice back when she had the gimmick, but she comes out and they do this match, and the match was not good. I mean, the match was really now. Ronda apparently at some point in this match she broke her hand. She went to throw a punch, and the punch connected, and she actually potatoed and broke a bone in her hand, and so.
How about that? Isn't it funny? The one that's been sitting here like, oh, this is fake, and all playing off of that whole thing, and she breaks her hand on a worked punch that ended up being potato. Huh.
So then, like Becky goes out and gets a table, and she goes to put it in the ring, but then Ronda like reverses whatever move that was the setup for it. So you have Becky like sitting on the top turnbuckle, and Ronda is standing there like she's going to grab her and flip her onto the table. And then she's looking around the crowd. She's like, "You people want tables? You want no tables? Tables are for bitches." And she throws the table across the ring, and you're just like, "What?
Yeah,
like what? This is dumb." So then they kept like a lot of the moves kept happening in slow motion, or like someone would be in the corner and they were going to whip them across the other corner. So they grab them and they would like go to pull them. But before they could actually do the motion of pulling them, the person started running, just a lot of stuff that was just timed awkward. And, it's like you get in front of a crowd and your adrenaline's up and it's, finally your chance and whatever. So whatever. But, eventually, Ronda Rousey, she goes for some move with Becky up on her shoulders, and Becky like reverses it into a pin. It wasn't a small cradle; it was a
crucifix.
Like a slide, like a crucifix slide, backslide, and but Ronda's shoulders don't quite come down all the way, but the ref still counts 1, 2, 3, and apparently the ref got fined. For doing this, because he's supposed to do it as a shoot. If the shoulders are not up, you don't do it. And he's sitting there thinking, this is the go home of the main event at WrestleMania. I'm going to do it. And so Vince yelled at him backstage, and they fined him his pay for the night. So I don't know how much they fined him of his pay, but took a hit.
I would hate that.
So now they can play off the fact that her shoulders weren't down for the full 3-pin when she comes back, but because she wanted to take time off anyway, and she legitimately hurt her hand, so that was that. So that was 7.5 hours of WrestleMania.
Ugh. And Raw and SmackDown, we're not. We're not even going to break that down. We're not even going to go segment by segment. We're just going to talk about some of the stuff that stuck out to us on this show. These shows.
I got done with WrestleMania, and it was late, and we came home, went to bed, woke up. We had to get up at 6 o'clock the next morning. We get up at 6, and we go out to this. My son is homeschooled, and there's like this breakfast meeting thing happens at Chick-fil-A like once a month, 6:30 in the morning. So got to get up at 6, be there at 6:30. So they're doing their thing, their homeschooler thing, and I'm sitting there on my laptop, and I was just like looking at the headlines, and places like ESPN are doing like Triple H and Batista tore the house down at WrestleMania last night with the most brutal. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is this a paid promotion from WWE? Yes. Like, did they give you money in order for you to put the story?
Yep.
And I'm looking at like everywhere there are these things. Like everybody's posting, USA Today, it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and the women have made history and changed the world, and wrestling will never be the same. And I'm looking at this, and I was just so angry. And so I was like, I'm writing something for our website. So just sitting there, right there, I just started typing. And I just started typing, and when I was done, I grabbed some pictures and I threw them in the thing, and I put it up on the website, and it was one of the highest trafficked things. Got the most hits of anything we've done actually in a while. I was like, I hate wrestling. I was like, I hate WWE. This is the worst show of all time. I'm probably not going to watch Raw and SmackDown for a long time after this. I don't want to see anything WWE product. Here's hoping that AEW can do something better in the future, because this is terrible.
Yep.
And again, it got some of the best traffic we've had on the site. But it was just kind of like off the top of my head. I just was so angry at that show. Delvis asked, do the refs know how the matches are supposed to end? Yes.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, yeah. Especially if there's a key thing like a title change, or if there's some sort of like weird someone's going to tap out, but you don't see it because of the way you're turned. That's going to lead to a storyline. So they have to let them know. But the idea is, because it's live, if you see it, you see the person tapping out, and it's obvious you're seeing them tap out, then you have to wave it off. And they have to get back up and rework the match and get back into the same spot and then try it again. And they'll do that for two reasons. One, it's live, so they don't want to give away that was the ending, and you work through it and you make it work. But second, if they do it on a show that's going to be taped, or they go to put it on the Blu-ray, or they go to put it on demand or whatever, they'll cut out the first attempt and go into the second one. They'll make a seamless edit.
Yeah.
So like Batista, during the show, when he went to get in the ring, he actually tripped on the ropes and fell. But if you go back and watch it now, it's not there.
Yeah.
Because he got it, he tripped, he got in, he kind of looked at the crowd, did a thing, he got out on the other side, he walked around the ring, climbed back up and did it a second time.
Yeah, because they must have done it quick, because even after having that break where I had to come back to it, I didn't even know that he had tripped.
So yeah, I don't know if
because that would have stuck out to me.
I don't know if they have, for their video on demand, if the way it works is they have like a separate queue of the file going in there, maybe just in case like there's a terrorist attack or something. They may have some secondary feed that they can use for the video on demand instead of it being the live feed. I don't know, but yeah, this was not a good show. So Raw the next night, I tried to watch it. I got about 5 minutes into it. My wife is like, I can't take this. She got up, she left. I sat there for about another 10 minutes.
Did she watch Mania with you?
No, she didn't. She couldn't even get through the first of Raw.
Yeah.
So I watched the first few minutes of it, and I was like, after about like 10, 15 minutes, whatever, I couldn't even take it anymore. I just started going through, like, I've got some Australian rules wrestling or Australian rules football to watch. I'm gonna watch some of this.
Australian rules wrestling.
Australian rules football. It's like live action Quidditch meets rugby. It's weird. But anyway, so eventually I go back and I go to watch Raw, and it's like I'm like fast forwarding.
Nothing happened.
I'm just waiting for like these big moments. They have Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, who cares? They had Baron Corbin do a promo. They had Kurt Angle beat him up, to get his win back on Raw. Then they had Lars Sullivan debut, which I know Lars Sullivan coming out is a big deal, but could they spend more than the $12.95 to use the Bleeding Comic Sans font on his butt, on his trunks? Because it looks so cheap and so generic. It looks like using the Create a Wrestler on WWE, like just laying out the letters and putting the fake little blood drops on his trunks looks so bad. And I guess his gimmick is that he's like some wild, crazy madman. I don't know what the deal
New
is.
Snitsky, man.
But not as attractive as Snitsky.
Yeah.
It's weird. They talked about there was going to be a superstar shakeup. Nobody cared. They had Alexa Bliss. She wanted to wrestle because she didn't get a chance on WrestleMania. So Bayley comes out and she just beats the crap out of Bayley.
Yeah. So, I think this is another reason too why Sasha was pissed and it was asked for her release and all that stuff, is because the plan was, I think, for Bliss to beat up both of them. And she's like, all right, well, we just lost the titles. Now you're doing this. Like, I could see the creative frustration.
Yeah, maybe, but it wasn't a good.
Yeah, it wasn't a good.
Becky Lynch came out, cut a promo, and it was fine. Her promo was fine, whatever. And then, of course, she gets to the end. She goes to leave, and out comes Lacey Evans and does her thing. And so you're like, okay, whatever. Lacey Evans gets right in her face, and Lacey Evans clocks Becky Lynch. So she finally did something.
Yay.
And apparently WWE thinks that Lacey Evans is going to be like the next big thing.
Oh,
like
great.
Next big.
Great. We'll see how that goes.
They announced that Dean Ambrose is having his final match in WWE tonight against Bobby Lashley. Nobody cared.
Yep.
Let's see. They had... I guess I glossed over the whole thing with Seth Rollins at the beginning. So Seth Rollins came out, talked about how he won the title. Kofi came out, talked about he won the title. He said, the women had the unification match last night. We'll have a unification match tonight.
Automatically, when I saw that, I'm like, all right, there's going to be some BS finish. There's no way. Like,
something.
who in their right mind be like, oh my God, they're going to, no, it's not going to happen.
But apparently people were legitimately upset at the end of the night. But
well, for different reasons.
We had Ricochet and Aleister Black against Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. It was fine. Like I tried to watch this because of course I like Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. I like Ricochet, Aleister Black. I'm still kind of like, whatever. It was okay, but again, it wasn't inspired. There was nothing great about it. It was just another 10-minute TV match. It was nothing special. Elias talked about how he wasn't going to be interrupted by John Cena tonight. He's going to go out and have his moment once and for all. They did the return of the zombie gobbledygooker. Apparently, Bray Wyatt has apparently found the remains of the gobbledygooker and is reanimating him as a zombie and bringing him back as part of the Wyatt clan.
Great. Yep.
Cool. We had Dean Ambrose versus Bobby Lashley in his final match. It was pretty terrible.
Yep.
Ambrose got put through a table and didn't matter. Nobody cared. They had Sami Zayn made his big appearance for.
That was the only highlight of the show. That promo that he cut against the fans, that was great.
Well, no, because there were two good things on this show: Sami Zayn and the Elias promo.
Yeah, those
were the two big things. So Sami Zayn came back. He had a match with Finn Balor. It was actually a pretty good match. I like Sami Zayn. I'm a fan. I'm glad to see him back. I don't know. Again, it wasn't overly special, but it was still fun. It was a nice match. It was whatever. Yeah. So Sami Zayn lost. He gets on the mic afterwards. He turns on the crowd. He goes heel. These people aren't worth it. They're terrible. Whatever. Which was fine. They Delvis wants to say, what's this Wyatt family you were talking about? Like, are you legit? Like, are you actually asking or is it the fact that everybody in the Wyatt family now has a different gimmick and has moved on, and now it's Bray Wyatt by himself?
The puppet.
With him and a puppet.
Yeah. That was Zombie Googer.
Or is that Zombie Mr. Sacco? I don't know, maybe that's what that was. I don't know. It looked like one of the things from the Dark Crystal. One of the crow things.
Why? It's just terrible. Anyway.
The gobbledygooker thing. Okay. All right. Are you do you not know what the Wyatt family is? Do you not know that was the name of Bray Wyatt's stable of guys with Rowan and Harper and Braun Strowman and Randy Orton for a short while.
And Daniel Bryan for a short while.
Yeah, they were the Wyatt family. That was the name he gave them. They were supposed to be all his cousins and brothers and people that he brought into his cult and whatever. That was Bray Wyatt doing the puppet. That was him doing the laugh of the puppet looking out of the box. So, either they had nothing else for Bray Wyatt to do, and they're doing a gimmick with Zombie Gobbledygooker, and they just wanted him to be the guy to do it because he has a good laugh, or that is the Bray Wyatt gimmick. But yes, that is Bray Wyatt who is doing the puppet and the laugh on the show. Yeah. So that was Bray Wyatt. Yes. I don't know that that's actually what that's leading to. But why is he doing a rubber chicken demon puppet? I don't know. They had Dana Brooke backstage. People were actually applauding for Dana Brooke during WrestleMania during the Women's Battle Royal because she stood up to Ronda Rousey and stood up for professional wrestling. So there was that.
Where did that get her?
Is she still employed?
Yeah,
that's more than some people.
Yeah, I guess there's that.
So Elias then goes out to the ring. He said if John Cena was going to rap, then Elias was going to rap. He started to do this rap. I don't know. He said something, I can do what I can. And the next person to interrupt Elias is a dead man. So, of course, lights go out. Undertaker, epic entrance like he usually does. He gets in the ring and he just stares at Elias, and Elias is over in the corner. And Elias is just kind of looking at him. and he just like pokes his head out of the rope, and he starts to climb through the rope, and he just stops. And you're like, what is Elias doing? And then Elias, like, he gets this look on his face, like, no, everybody interrupts me. Everybody keeps doing this. I'm not backing down. And so he gets back into the ring, and he sets the guitar down, and he takes off his coat, and he takes off his little bracelets, and he takes off his necklaces, and he walks over, and he takes a couple steps towards Undertaker. And so then Undertaker takes a couple steps, then he takes a couple steps, and they get right face to face. And Undertaker, still wearing his coat, still wearing his hat, picks him up, hits him with the choke slam, knocks off his hat. So he picks up the hat, he puts it on. Oh no, wait. He hits him with it, then picks him up for the tombstone. Hits him with the tombstone, covers him 1, 2, 3. Then picks up the hat, puts everything back on, and then turns around and leaves, and just leaves Elias there. And apparently, this whole segment, it was a fun segment. It was great to watch. Like, that was a fun appearance by the Undertaker. Undertaker looks good. His physique looks much better than the last time we saw him. Fantastic. But apparently, all of that is a setup, because the Saudi Arabia show this year is going to be Undertaker versus Elias. And apparently this is the beginning of that feud.
I wish the people could have just seen me sitting here. I hate that I have to like say something. I just,
So what do you think? Undertaker versus Elias? Is that a Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Scott Hall? Oh, the dogs are making noise, so you went silent there. I was trying to figure out what you were doing. Okay, so he's got barking dogs, so he's quiet right now. So he loves the idea. He thinks it's great. Is this going to be the greatest match?
I mean, good on Taker for getting that Saudi Arabia money, but at the same time, too, I wish they would stop doing those shows. I know it makes them a lot of money, but especially with last year and how sort of just bad that whole scenario was with the timing of everything.
Yeah, I can understand. No, like, there's no government in the world that's 100% clean, right?
Right.
Like, not even our government is 100% clean. We understand that. So there's always going to be problems. But when, like, a month before you're scheduled to do the show, your government decides to just kidnap a reporter and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's an audio recording of this that exists, because he had a phone turned on in his pocket, dialed into his voicemail, because he knew something was going to happen. So the sound of his murder exists. That's probably not the time that you decide, that you're going to promote that country. At the same time, though, you're obviously doing it for the money. And that government is willing to pay you more money for one show than you make in a year off of everything else.
Yeah, it's tough. But it's cool too when they're like, I want Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna, and you're like, huh. Well, got some bad news for you.
I'd like to see George Hackenschmidt make a return.
Right.
I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. So I mean, when people ask, with the product that they put out and everything, how are they still making money and making more money than they ever did in the Attitude Era? There's your answer. Well, part of your answer anyway.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it is the ratings for the TV have gone down, but ratings for everything on TV has gone down. So when they compare the numbers now to the numbers 10 years ago, you go, wow, that's quite a big drop. When they look at it from 20 years ago, wow, that's a huge drop. But then at the same time, if you look at all of TV from 20 years ago compared to now, all of it's a huge drop.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to go along with, again, market share and how much of the people watching TV at the time are watching. And they still do pretty good in that regard. They're not number one anymore, but they're still doing really good comparatively. It's just that TV in general has taken a big hit. Broadcast television, cable television networks, they've all taken big hits in the last few years. So but for a lot of people, it's just habit. It's like Monday night, you turn on Raw, you watch wrestling. That's just how it goes. So that's the thing.
Not anymore.
Not for me. But then we got the match that was supposed to be the unification match with Kofi and Seth Rollins. And of course, they did the thing where they go like 10 minutes and then the bar comes in and interrupts. Instead of doing it like 2 minutes in, it's like you invest 10 minutes into this match, then you get the interruption, then they call off the match, then they decide they're going to do an impromptu tag match instead. Seth
Bring
is
out
like,
the beach balls.
Seth is like, hey, Kofi, you and I can settle this later. But right now, I want to fight these guys. And you can hear everyone in the crowd go, oh, no, no. But that's what they did. So.
And Seth and Kofi won.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
On the SmackDown.
Well, I wonder if part of this, I mean, obviously they're like, we're going to set up something big and then we're going to have someone interrupt. I wonder if part of it was the bar did so good in that WrestleMania match. We'll put them in the main event here on Raw. It'll get them, back, high in people's eyes because they had that great match then. They'll have this great match tonight. And then they had no K match. Like it was all right.
But they still lost.
And I watched 90% of that on fast forward.
Yeah.
I watched like usually the actual wrestling matches, and there weren't a whole lot of them, so there wasn't a whole lot of that to watch. And Undertaker, whoa, what's this? Go back. Let's watch that. But otherwise, it was like I am not invested in this. I don't care anymore. I'm not watching. So as far as I'm concerned, Raw's done. I'm not watching Raw anymore. I have no interest in watching Raw in 10 months or whatever, whenever, SmackDown makes their big move and they have to change everything on Raw and Raw gets reformatted and they actually do something with Raw, I'll check it out to see if it gets any better. For right now, I don't care. I'm done. The experiment was Royal Rumble through WrestleMania. We're done. I'm done. No more Raw. Not watching it. So then we had SmackDown.
Yeah.
I will say right now, I've watched about 10 minutes of the SmackDown, fast forwarded through.
Nothing happened.
90% of the show.
Well, there was something of note, I guess, that happened. There was a title change.
Well, okay. So we got Aleister Black, Ricochet, and Mustafa Ali. Oh, I'm sorry. Ali versus Nakamura, Rusev, and Andrade. But Shinsuke Nakamura is still Shinsuke Nakamura. He still gets two names.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they have another Shinsuke, somebody else coming in, or another Nakamura, what the deal is, but he gets to have two names. Randy Orton made a run in on Ali. No one cared. Okay, whatever. They had R-Truth.
I did like the part RKO. He's walking up the ramp, and then Randy Orton's like, he's doing this thing where he's like, "Oh, I can't see."
Oh yeah, because of the bright lights. Kevin Owens came out and attacked him, attacked Rusev. So you've got a couple different feuds coming out of this. You're going to have Ali and Orton. Because AJ Styles is apparently injured. He injured his hip, I think it was.
Last I looked, I didn't know exactly what it was. I just saw a little blurb that he was injured.
Yeah, so he's injured. He's out for a while. So you're going to have Randy Orton versus Ali. You're going to have Kevin Owens versus Rusev. So at least they're going to break apart the Rusev Nakamura tag team, it looks like. So let's see. We had Usos versus Hardys was announced for later in the night. R-Truth and Carmella came out, and of course I watched this because I like R-Truth. Carmella pointed out Kofi Kingston is the WWE champion, and then Truth said that Carmella defeated Andre the Giant in her Battle Royal, so now she's the Andre the Giant champion. Carmella tried to correct him. He didn't understand. So again, I thought, like, I like R-Truth. I'm sorry. That's I get fun out of that. So they had Samoa Joe run out, though, attacked R-Truth. Joe talked about beating up Rey Mysterio. They had Braun Strowman run out. Joe put the clutch on Strowman, but Strowman was still able to power out. It was one of these things where they had everybody do a run-in on everybody else to try to do something exciting, but at the end, you're just like, I don't care.
Well, it's to let you know, dude, that next week we have the Superstar Shakeup. So Braun Strowman can be on SmackDown.
Anybody could be anywhere. You never know. We had the Iconics beating. They brought out a team. They said this is a storied team, a team that deserves a title.
The Brooklyn Bells.
Brooklyn Bells. Of course, it was a bunch of nobodies. Beat them up. They had someone watching backstage. Or they had Paige watching backstage. She said, "I'm going to bring a real team to face them next week." So
I wonder who that'll be.
We'll see. I don't know. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
They had Shane cut a promo. Talked about the Miz. Talked about Mr. Miz. Talked about the announcer. The announcer didn't do the intro very well, so he beat up on the announcer. Nobody cared. They went to Hardy Boys versus the Usos for the SmackDown titles. It was one of those that went for a few minutes, and then the Hardys hit all their big moves, and the Hardys won, and everybody was happy.
And then Lars Sullivan came out in his terrible tights and beat him up.
Yes, and Lars Sullivan, there's something weird. Like, he's just so lanky, and like I don't know. He's got a strength. Like, he looks like he's strong, but it's not strong like bodybuilder strong. It's strong like this is a guy that like shovels out septic tanks for a living strong. Like, it's not like a healthy strong. It's like doesn't eat well, malnourished, but still has a lot of muscle because he has a horrible life type strong.
Yeah, I think for Lars in NXT it worked because a lot of the guys in NXT are smaller builds, so he looks bigger. But when he's on there with guys that are about his size, then he doesn't look as big, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we had Becky Lynch out there. She said, "You can call me the champ or Becky Two Belts." And so the crowd started chanting Becky Two Belts. So I guess that's your next t-shirt.
Oh, they already made one.
Oh, okay. Well, they showed Becky.
It's very uninspired too. I'll look it up really quick while you keep talking about this.
They showed Becky fighting Lacey Evans, and again, nobody cared. And Lacey Evans jumped out and attacked Becky Lynch. So again, that's where your feud's going to be going, and nobody cares because nobody cares about Lacey Evans because Lacey Evans doesn't do anything.
Wait, you mean this has been what, about 3 months going now that she just comes out and walks back? You mean people don't care about that?
Apparently not. Apparently not. Did you find the shirt?
Good. Here you go. There's the link.
Oh, I see. You sent it to me in Messenger. I thought you were going to pull it up on the screen.
Well, I'll just let you do all that stuff.
Oh, WWE's making me an offer here. Hold up. Let me show you something here.
What is it? Buy one shirt, get one for $5.
Don't miss out. Save $5 on your next order.
Wow.
WWE, you don't know me. WWE also sent me a survey the day after WrestleMania. They're like, "We want your thoughts on WrestleMania," and I'm like, "No, you don't." But I filled out their survey very honestly and sent it back to them. But they want me to not miss out on this. So here is Becky Two Belts.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
Very inspired. Isn't that a cool shirt?
But look, this belt is got the red color, and this belt has the blue color to show that they're the two different belts. The problem is those belts were uninspired to begin with.
Yeah. I heard that they're going to be changing up some of the belts, though. Like I think the Raw tag titles, and then they said expect a change with another like major title.
I just I understand they wanted to, because this belt came out because of the network. So when they did the network logo, they came out with this belt because that's the new WWE logo, and they wanted it to all like whatever. I get that, but then when they did a second belt and they used the same logo, and then they did the women's belt and they used the same logo, and then they did the SmackDown women's belt and it was the same logo. Just I didn't like it in the first place, and now to see it on 4 different belts, it's I don't like it.
Yeah. Take note on the NXT UK Championship and their tag titles. Like, do something like that. Make it actually look prestigious and not just plain with a big logo slapped on it.
Yeah, this is bad. All right. Yep. Okay. Oh, Delvis says that Lacey Evans is the new Eva Marie. Yeah,
that's fair.
That is entirely fair. So then we got the New Day, all 3 of the New Day versus the Bar and Drew McIntyre. Sami Zayn watched on the ramp. He came out and said the fans weren't worth his time, and he walked away. Oh, great. So they're going to make Sami Zayn the new Lacey Evans, except he just walks out, tells the people off, and leaves.
Yeah, but at least he can cut a promo and seems
well, and at least he can have a match to back it up.
Yeah, that too.
So I mean, they got a match, and this is another one of those where I understand Big E had an injury, so he couldn't do a whole lot. He tore his meniscus in his knee, which is the same injury I had several years ago. So like I get it, but at the same time, this was not a good main event. It was again one of those things this is one of those matches that you need to do leading up to the pay-per-view where you mix everybody together into the big match, but instead they do this after the pay-per-view. They throw everybody together.
Drew McIntyre can show up on SmackDown. He might get drafted to SmackDown. Superstar shakeup.
But nobody cares about McIntyre. They don't care if he gets drafted to SmackDown.
Oh, I know.
So anyway, Kofi Kingston won, and his kids got in the ring, and Xavier Woods and Big E. And again, no hint of a breakup, no hint of any sort of, which is fine. I'm good, happy with that. But again, it was just a SmackDown. It was nothing special. So the two shows, the only real big thing, you had Sami Zayn return, which I like because I like Sami Zayn, but he really didn't do a whole lot except he turned heel, but he'd been heel before. So it's like, whatever. And then you had The Undertaker make his return with Elias, which was a fun segment.
Yeah.
And it was really well done, and they took their time with it, and they allowed the segment to breathe. They allowed the confrontation to work out. They didn't rush into anything. So that was great, but that was really the only inspired thing of the two nights.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there was absolutely nothing of note for both.
And I know that is because the shakeup is next week, and they want to kind of save all the exciting stuff for that. But at the same time, too, we've been conditioned at this point that the Raw after Mania, a lot of big things happen, and a lot of big things have happened in the past, and very unpredictable things. And this was
not that. This was not that.
Yeah.
So we didn't. I mean, Lars Sullivan was the only guy who moved up.
Yeah.
On both shows, so we didn't get an influx of talent. We didn't get all those NXT people coming in. We didn't get any big surprises from the indies. We didn't get the big returns of any superstars other than The Undertaker for a promo bit, but no one doing matches. We got the Hardys winning the belts. And that's supposed to be a thumb in the eye for AEW. That's one of those, like, Vince thinks that's hilarious. He's like, well, they wanted the Hardys. We got the Hardys. We're going to give them the belts. And so, because all this news about the network that they're signing, whatever, so that was supposed to be a thing in their face. But again, it's like, who cares? I'm done with SmackDown. Like, SmackDown was the better show of the Raw of the two shows. But I mean, the superstar shakeup at this point, like, I don't care, because I don't care about 90% of the talent on these shows. I don't care who they put on which show. It doesn't make any difference, because just the fact that I get to see someone who's been on SmackDown for the last 2 years take on somebody from Raw from the last year, I don't care, because there's no interesting matchups left that they can do. There's nothing big. There's nothing exciting. There's no great returns. There's no great talent coming up.
And they don't. Well, the main problem is they don't build things in a way to make you care either.
And anybody who 6 months ago had any sort of momentum, like a Braun Strowman, he's now, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, he's been in the joke matches. Kofi, great for Kofi for being the champion. Congratulations. But now it's going to be the same list of guys that he's going to wrestle on every show for the next 3 or 4 months, because it's the exact same guys who have been on the top of all the shows for the last 6 months. There's no one new who's coming in to chase after him. There's no long-standing feud. Nobody returns. Nothing, surprising or exciting. I don't care. There's nothing going on I care about. So I'm done with WWE weekly shows. Now, I will still watch the pay-per-views probably. I'm not going to watch them live. I'll watch them the day after or 2 days after. Fast forward through a fair part of them. Maybe read a little bit online before I watch them. Like, oh, you got to check out this match. It's a good match. So I'll go back and I'll check out that match, which is more or less what I've been doing for the last 2 years anyway. But 90% of the WWE product I don't care about, and I'm not going to watch it anymore.
I remember, what was it? I think Friday night I messaged Dirt, and I was like, I was drunk too. I messaged him, I'm like, hey man, Takeover was great. Check it out. I get a response the next day. I hate wrestling.
Yes, that was exactly it. And I haven't watched the show. I haven't gone back and watched it. And I've heard that
it's really, really, really good.
Top
to bottom, it is an excellent show.
I've heard other people say that, but I cannot. I don't want to.
So where does that leave the future of the Transitional Champion podcast, Eric?
So after the WWE pay-per-views, at some point the week after, and we're pretty fast and loose with our schedule on the show. I had to get my van worked on yesterday. You've had to work overtime in the past. I've been sick. You've been sick.
I've fallen asleep and
So the plan is at some point the week after a WWE pay-per-view, we will come on and do a show. And we'll talk about what's been going on the last month in professional wrestling. And we'll talk about what's been happening with some of the stars. We'll talk about the WWE product. We'll talk a little bit about Major League Wrestling. We'll talk a little bit about ROH. They just signed this new big deal with New Japan. They had a big show, over the Wrestlemania weekend. We can talk about some of that stuff. We can talk about AEW and what's new with them and going on. It's going to be more about the wrestling business, maybe some of the fun stories that have come out. Maybe if anything of note happens at one of the indie shows I'm at or something, we can talk about that. If you go to a live event, you can talk about that. It's going to be a general wrestling show, less WWE specific, more of a general show, but it'll be like once a month. At some point the week after the pay-per-view, we'll make the event page for it. We'll set the schedule so you guys can come up and check it out. If you want to leave us notes, if you got topics you think that we should talk about, you can always email me, dirt@popculturenetwork.com or dirt@thepopc.net. And we'll set them aside. And when it's time for the show, we'll bring them up and talk about those things. But as far as the weekly show, as far as watching Raw and SmackDown, that's over. That's done.
No,
we tried the experiment. It does not work.
I was telling Emily, I was like, I'm so glad that we're not going to be doing this every week anymore, because it is like, even when I'm watching condensed versions of this, I'm still just like, either nothing's happening or I'm like, why are they doing this? There's never like oh hey, that seems promising. Like with the Kofi win, like you were talking, it's like, cool, great, awesome moment to have on the show. Where do you go from here?
Right.
Are they going to squander it? Probably.
It's not like you're going to have The Rock return and do a feud with Kofi, because that would be awesome. Yeah, like that would sell it. You know what I mean? Right. That would cement it in a way, but that's not going to happen. It's not like WWE is going to sign Eli Drake from now that he's been released and bring him on and shoot him as like the next big thing and have him go up against Kofi. That'd at least be interesting to see how they would work that out. They're not going to do something like that, So it's like my interest. All they're doing is continuing to roll the show along. Mm-hmm. Now, the one hope that I have for the future, and I want to say, Delvis, thanks for being in the chat today. He says, I appreciate the links to all these shows. He goes, I don't have cable right now, so this is the way he keeps up on wrestling, is by watching the show. And I'm glad you watched this, and I hope you continue to watch as we go through in the future, even though we're not doing it weekly. But it's just I don't. WWE, the one hope for the future is that when they move to Fox, because it's on a real full network, and because Fox has certain expectations, they are supposedly going to retool the entire show to make it more of a sporting event type show than a sports entertainment type show, because they want it to fit with Fox does NFL, Fox does Major League Baseball. They want it to fit within the realm of those other events, as opposed to being a wrestling show that piggybacks off of Raw. Yeah. So because of that, there is a hope that they might have a compelling show come October. But October is still a long ways away, and they've got plenty of months to screw everything up and rethink everything between now and then, and come out with a show that is exactly like everything else. But I'm so deflated after this WrestleMania. I was so deflated when I saw the entryway. I was so deflated by the time we got to the main show. I was so deflated by the time we got halfway through the show. By the time we got to the end of the show, I was just done. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Watching the Raw and SmackDown this week, like, I didn't even care. It's like I put them on and I started vacuuming. I was fast forwarding through stuff. I didn't care. I like it's whatever. So we will. Somewhere deep within me, I'm still a wrestling fan. I love going to local indie shows. I love watching some of the other shows like Major League Wrestling and ROH and some of that stuff. But as far as WWE, I am not a WWE fan at the moment.
Right.
And so that's where we are.
I was thinking too, maybe we can find a way every now and again to work it in. Maybe we just start, you and I, watching old episodes of Thunder.
Maybe
We'll just do like a live watching of here's the Thunder from February 17th, 99 or 2000 or whatever.
Maybe. Well, the one thing that's disappointed me a lot of times on the network is that I've tried to go back and watch old shows and there will be missing episodes.
Yeah.
Like, especially I was real excited. They put a lot of AWA stuff on there and they put stuff from like Georgia South. And I wanted to go back and watch some of that stuff. And I went back to try to watch that. And they would do like a couple shows from February, a show in April, a couple shows in June. And you're like, like I wanted to watch week by week progression through some of these things that they didn't do. So hopefully some of that stuff they've gone back and they've filled in the gaps. So maybe we can find a spot, go through the network, find a spot where maybe there's 2 months where it's complete and solid. And so we'll watch, some of those episodes. We'll do like a live stream or something while we watch those episodes. And like the way you do with the Fans of Power when you do a commentary, or Beyond Retro when you do a commentary, maybe we can do something and we can watch some of those as time goes by. But as far as like 5 hours of Raw and SmackDown, no. 90-minute versions on Hulu of Raw and SmackDown, no. I'm not even invested in that. The 10-minute recap videos that you watch on YouTube, fast forward through those, maybe. But yeah, nothing like that. One last question here from the chat, Delvis. What are your thoughts on the Enzo invasion of ROH? Yeah, so Enzo and Big Cass, who's now, I think he's calling himself Cass XL, is the name he's using.
It's something like that. And then Enzo is actually an N and a Z-O.
Yeah.
Look, Enzo's a good promo. That whole shtick that they had in WWE, to me, it worked because that follows like that New Age Outlaws mentality. People know what to expect. It's easy. It's something they can get behind, and they did for a while. They made the mistake of splitting them up. It all kind of went downhill from there. We all know that Enzo's kind of like a garbage human being.
Mildly, to put it mildly.
Yeah, everyone has said that. Cass has had some issues since he's been released.
So wait, he's asking, was it a shoot? No, it was
total work.
100% work.
Yeah. It depends because neither one of them were ever particularly great in the ring. So to have them in the WWE style protected them a lot, I would say. To see them here on the independents, especially a Ring of Honor, you're gonna see a lot of those fatal flaws. I would imagine they would either have to keep the matches short or make them mostly like a promo thing, and really the only thing you can do is have them be the guys who cut the promo and do squash matches. Yeah.
And that's really about all. They are the wrestling in sport, or they are the entertainment in sports entertainment. They are not the wrestling. They are not the sport in sports entertainment.
Yeah.
So, and like what you said with Enzo being a garbage human being, like I agree with that. And I agree that people can change. I know that there are people that have done horrible things in the past and they've been able to learn from them and grow and move on and become better people. Enzo is not that guy.
No, I don't think so either.
Enzo is he did it, but it was their fault. He did it, but they were asking for it. He's in his own little headspace where he thinks he's a great rapper
And
oh yeah, I forgot about those. He did those
yeah,
wrestling those rap tracks.
yeah. No one showed up to those shows. No one bought his album.
Oh, oh. Randy
So,
Savage was a better rapper.
yeah,
Oh, forgot about that.
I actually I have a soft spot in my heart for that Be a Man track that Savage put out.
So why is it security are always guys my size? They're just doormen at that point. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. It's like the actual security. If you'll know if it's actual security coming in to get them, because the actual security are usually guys between like 30 and 50 who don't look like they work out, but they look like guys who will get into a barroom fight. Those are your real security guys. When it's scrawny guys or it's guys that are way too muscular, that are wearing a shirt that's like way too tight, then you know that those are guys who are planted there, because it's skinny guys to get hit, or it's guys who look way too big because they're indie guys who happen to be at the show, wanted to get, a tryout or something, and they threw a security shirt on him and let him get in the ring. But when it's a guy who looks like he's 50, looks like he drinks a case of beer a night, and he's the guy running in there, and he goes for like the legs, first thing to take him down, to then crawl onto his back and drag him out of there, as opposed to, a guy who gets in his face and gets punched. I mean, that's your real security, are those guys. So yeah, you can tell by security a lot of times whether or not it's a shoot or if it's legit. And of course, 99% of them there are works. The 99% of them, when you have a guy who jumps in the ring, it's a work. But like we saw the Hall of Fame, some of them are legit and they look completely different. The ones that are shoots look completely different than the ones that are works. You can definitely tell by the way the camera work goes. When it's something that they want to work, the camera will show it, and that's a good clue. When a wrestler gets hurt and the referee puts up the X, if they're showing that on camera, the referee putting up the X, 99% of the time, that's a shoot. Occasionally, it'll be a work, but there's other stuff that gives it away when it's a work other than him putting up the sign. But it does happen from time to time, especially in WWE, because they like to blur that line because they're edgy.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for the show, guys. Thanks for watching. Again, we'll be back at some point after whatever the next pay-per-view is. I don't even want to know what the next pay-per-view is. I don't want to know when it is. We'll burn that bridge when we come to it.
I was just gonna spoil it for you.
No, don't say a thing. Don't say a thing. We'll worry about it later.
All right.
But yeah, so we'll be back at some point in the future, and
thanks everyone that joined us on this long journey.
Oh, this was a mistake. I mean, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on the show.
You mean it was a mistake?
Oh my gosh.
Pants off, dance off. Beefcake's in the Hall of Fame, and I don't care if he's got that ring, he still sucks.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging in the chat. We'll talk to you later.